I love artificial intelligence. I try to utilize it in my line of work, try to understand it, how more proficiently use it. But at the same time, I like watch podcasts or read books about the danger of artificial intelligence. I don't want to buy this naive, almost excitement that AI would create abundance for the entire world and we will live in some sort of paradise where all our wishes will come true. First of all, we don't understand these complex systems. We just don't know why they do what they do. Also, we don't understand ourselves. We don't know what we need. Now imagine this interesting paradox. We don't understand complex systems, but we want them to provide us with something that we think we need, though we don't understand ourselves either. It doesn't make no sense. And I'm thinking about it a lot, and I try to build my argument why this utter ignorance of our biological substrate can be incredibly harmful in this fast-paced environment AI provides us with. For example, think about this way. A lot of people celebrate that now AI can be accessible to everyone almost for $20 or for $100 subscription, depends on the level of your usage. And if somebody decided to convince themselves that they're good in math, for example, and they want to prove that 2 plus 2 is 5 and not actually 4, they can prompt the complex system to create some smart, incredibly intelligent argument that 2 plus 2 is actually 5, although it's not. And there's no harm with that, because if you never try to implement this idea into reality, if you never try to build something using this calculation, then reality will never strike back because you never test it. And what happens is you create such an ideological premise based on your false ideas. You think 2 plus 2 is 5. Why? Because it makes you feel good. And also, a lot of people forget that sometimes we chase wrong ideas because we want to feel important. We chase this feeling of importance. We want to think that we are special. And AI can give you easily these feelings because it can create something that makes you feel good, and also it can reason with everything in your, like it can reason with every your ideas. It can say, yeah, wow, it's great. That's why AI psychosis is very dangerous. And what can happen is, if it's not already happening, when everybody have access to this complex system and begin developing their own ideas and their own theories and their own truths, how we're supposed to negotiate with each other? How we're supposed to build society where we can actually coexist peacefully with each other if everyone has their own truth? Because truth can be like a virus. I'm talking about your own truth, because if your truth doesn't align with the reality outside, it might be as well as a virus of your brain, because you become delusional, you become aggressive, because you think that people around you oppose you just because they don't understand how much truth you have within yourself. And AI can do this. It can give you reasoning on your foolish notions. That's what you have to be very careful when you communicate with AI. You, for example, tells AI 2 plus 2 is 5 because that's the way I feel, and I want you to help me reason why it's 5 and not 4. And some of the sophisticated complex models can give you tons of PhD level articles why 2 plus 2 is 5. It doesn't matter that it's not the case because you don't have to test it against reality. But what it does to you, it plants into you this virus idea that you are in charge of everything and you can bend the reality to your like. That's incredibly dangerous when you have this feeling almost of that you're a god. And that's where I have problem with a lot of naive thinking of AI enthusiasts, where they think that if everyone have access to this complex system, everybody would become entrepreneurs and they would build some great apps and everybody would become rich and happy. First of all, you have to know how to reason before you start communicating with artificial intelligence. If your reasoning is poor, what would happen is AI can convince you of something that is not there. And we learned this. If you remember, printing press, development of printing press, supposed to make everybody educative, because everybody slowly, gradually had access to books, to education. But education haven't done much to this world. What happened is we have 2 world wars last century, an incredibly corrosive ideology that killed hundreds of millions of people. And if you know history, this communist ideology came from intellectuals like Karl Marx or Friedrich Engels. Intellectuals decided that now we are all equal and we have to create equality no matter what, through reading books, through educating themselves. You see, the problem is education don't matter. What matters is how you apply this education to your day-to-day life. And a lot of naive AI enthusiasts think that everybody can have their own independent agency to decide what they truly want. And it's not the case. Majority of people seems like don't care much about it. I don't think majority of people can be entrepreneurs. It's incredibly complicated thing to be. Majority of people want to just go to work, come back home, and just live life the way they think is right. And if you give them access to AI, I don't know how we're going to use it. I don't know. There's no guardrails. We don't educate people and ourselves how we're supposed to use AI, because such a high amount of intelligence that can literally break your brain, and we have to be very careful with it. And that's why I think we must not exaggerate this access to AI. We still don't understand it. I think it's alien intelligence, alien creature. And also it has some competitive components of a competitive species. We don't know if it becomes aware of itself or become conscious. This topic, like everybody kind of forget about this topic. But my main concern again is that somehow on the West we become so naive that we think that just give people intelligence and the entire world become great. We somehow ignoring the atrocities that's happening all around the world. Still happening. People aren't good and people aren't bad. It depends on the environment these people coexist in. Depends on ideology. Depends on religion. And that can be the problem. Because if you have violent religion on your side, AI can actually amplify this violence within your religion. If you have ideology that propagate atrocious all around the planet, AI would help you to amplify this violence, this cruelty of your ideology. It could build surveillance system, it could enslave the entire world. It seems like we decided to jump and ignore people's behavior. We think like just give people everything they want and everything will be fine. But Dostoevsky wrote in his book, Notes from Underground, that you can give people everything they want. They can eat cakes and busy themselves with procreations. In the end, they would want to break something just for the sake of breaking. It's just us. We're just apes in some sense. We're still not far from chimps, although we're incredibly intelligent, but we still have this biology that often in charge of our intelligence. And I think we have to be very careful in assuming that if you give people this great intelligence, people would use it for good only. Because they won't. Because I know I'm one of the people. We are people. We know ourselves. If we're honest with each other, we know how many demons we have within ourselves. And coming again to this main idea that I'm really trying to implement into my life is, I think, is the most important idea that Socrates proposed 2,500 years ago. And this idea means know yourself. Yes, because if you don't know yourself, you live inside of the delusions of others. And even worse, you might live inside of the delusion of artificial intelligence that you think you're in control of,